Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever it is you may be watching this. My name is Doug Bender, and this is a video presentation for my case brief number 1 for Accounting 673. It is currently 6:17 p.m. on October 16th. This is one of my first times recording a video like this, so there may be some pauses, some breaks, some portions that I need to edit out, but here we go. For our case brief 1 assignment, I was assigned the Walsh v. Abate case. Prior history of this case: it was an appeal from a circuit court for the 15th Judicial Circuit in Palm Beach County, Court of Appeals of Florida, and it happened the case was decided in March of 2022. The basic facts of this case, as you can see on the left here, this is my write-up of the case brief, and then on the right is the actual case itself from Nexus Uni. The basic facts of the case were there was a buyer and a seller of a real estate property. The buyer sent an offer to the seller, signed and delivered via email, offering for under the seller's asking price. This initial offer was signed by the buyer and sent by the buyer's agent to the seller's agent. After this initial offer, there was some back and forth between the two agents, changing the terms and eventually reaching a deal of sorts. But all this communication went back and forth on email and even text messages. In the end, the seller's agent responded to the buyer saying that they had gone with a different buyer. The appellant, or the buyer, Walsh in this case, took the seller, or Abate, to court, saying that we had a deal, we had a contract, because the seller's agent had agreed to sell to this buyer. However, the sellers moved to dismiss the complaint based on a couple factors, including that the purchase agreement was never actually executed and the terms were not agreed upon in writing. The seller or the seller's agent never signed any documentation. The primary issue of this case was asking if a binding contract was created through the email and text communication between the two agents. A binding contract is the key point here. The rule of law that the original trial court brought forth and the Court of Appeals of Florida upheld and affirmed was the statute of frauds. The court found that the contract was never fully executed as required by the statute of frauds, because the seller never signed a written contract agreement with the buyer. All of the communication, again, just simple text messages and email exchange. In this case, the appellant must show that the text and emails exchanged between the agents constitutes a binding contract in the eyes of the law. The trial court, and then again the Court of Appeals, found that this did not happen. The statute of frauds specifically states that the party with which enforcement is sought has to have signed a written contract in order for there to be a case. That did not happen here, and therefore the sellers or the defendants motion to dismiss was agreed upon by the courts, and the case was thrown out. The appellant, Walsh, attempted to appeal based on the decision that the trial court made, and the appeals court held up the initial decision, granting a motion to dismiss and finding no fault with the seller, Abate, because there was never a contract signed by the seller.